I love it when good things happen to good people. Dak Prescott has been nothing but a fantastic person. He's got the right work ethic. He goes about it the right way. As one of his teammates said today, and they said it very eloquently, Dak Prescott did not cheat the game. He never has. And because he hasn't, he got paid more than anyone in the history of this game for it today.
Dak Prescott in the playoffs, he has not performed well in the playoffs. But with Dak Prescott under center, the Cowboys are relevant. They 12 wins, 12 wins, 12 wins. They give themselves a shot to be in the playoffs. It's a couple quarterbacks that's not good in the playoffs, but their teams are relevant. This was a must-do for the Dallas Cowboys. You signed your franchise wide receiver. You got to make sure you lock up your franchise quarterback to at least give yourself a chance. And maybe one of these years he breaks through.
Thanks a lot to BetUS for powering this video. We NFL fans spend a lot of time arguing over NFL contract values. Dak Prescott was the biggest will they, won't they discussion of the year, with all signs pointing towards number 4 taking his talents elsewhere and setting a new market for quarterbacks. Well, it turns out that he did set a new market, but he did it by sticking with the Dallas Cowboys. His signing in the morning kicked off the Cowboys' opening day of the season perfectly, and their thumping win over Cleveland capped it off in style. Things are certainly looking up for America's team. New QB contract? Check. Week 1 win away from home? Check. Humiliate an AFC contender as an underdog? Check. What a start for America's team. Jerry Jones couldn't have drawn it up any better. Us suckers spent all offseason debating CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott's contracts, only for him to get both across the line in the 11th hour before hammering one of the best rosters in the NFL. Jerry's in dreamland at the moment. Quarterback contracts have dominated a lot of discussion over recent years, with every newly signed signal caller taking the top spot. This summer alone, we have had Trevor Lawrence and Jordan Love both joining Joe Burrow at the top of the pecking order with $55 million a year. On top of that, Tua Tagovailoa and Jared Goff both netted $53 million to join the top 5, leaving the likes of Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen in the dust. But now, the market has been reset again. And I guess it should come as no surprise that it was America's team.
An hour ago that the Cowboys were making a late push to get a deal done with their star quarterback, Dak Prescott. And just now, about 6 hours before kickoff, they got it done. It is a 4-year, $240 million contract extension that makes Dak Prescott by far the highest paid player in NFL history. He gets a whopping $231 million guaranteed and an $80 million signing bonus. A player with this type of leverage was going to need to get the perfect deal in order to sign rather than hitting free agency next March, and that's exactly what Dak Prescott got.
Just at the point that we thought Dak Prescott was playing his final season in Dallas, the former 4th rounder became the highest paid player in the history of the NFL. His 4-year, $240 million deal works out to $60 million a year, leapfrogging those ahead of him to lead now by $5 million over anyone else on a yearly average basis. Just like the previous top 5, there will be question marks surrounding whether Dak is worth it. His postseason record of 2-5 is horrendous, and the last memory in people's brains over the offseason was a dismal outing against the Packers, in which he, and the Dallas defense of course, lost the game before it had even really started. He also produced poor performances against the Cowboys' toughest opponents in 2023, registering quarterback ratings below 53 in losses against Miami, Buffalo, and San Francisco. However, that's not all he did last year. Prescott also delivered plenty of top-tier performances that produced an overall stat sheet of 4,516 yards and 36 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. His 36 touchdowns were league high, as were his 411 completions and 69.5% completion rate. PFF awarded him a passing grade of 89.8, which was the second highest in the NFL. His big-time throw percentage of 6% was tied for most in the NFL, and his turnover-worthy play rate of just 2% was second best. There's no two ways about it. Dak Prescott was productive, made big throws, and protected the ball. For his efforts, he almost earned himself an MVP award, coming second in voting to Lamar Jackson. Yes, a lot of that production came against less talented teams, but this is still the NFL we're talking about. High-level quarterback play isn't easy to come by. When you have someone who can get the job done like Prescott, you pay him. Before we move on with the video, let's talk about some sports betting. My go-to for that is BetUS. Once you're in, you'll easily find all the pregame markets, parlays, and prop bets that you need. You'll even get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. So let's win some money. If I want to bet on some division winners, I just click on the football tab, scroll down to the NFL divisions tab, Then find the bet I like. I am going to go for Aaron Rodgers' Jets to win the AFC East. So click on the number and specify your wager. $50 sounds good. Then click place my bets, click confirm, and there you go. Pretty easy, right? Enjoy a 150% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 with the code YouTube150. Having initially taken the league by storm as a surprise 4th-round rookie, Prescott will now remain with the Cowboys until 2028, which will be his age 35 season, and boy did Dallas celebrate in style. Despite Cleveland having serious question marks on offense, Dallas entered the game as 2.5-point underdogs. Well, they didn't need the points. They ended up walking into the dog pound and landing 33 on one of the best defenses in the NFL. In fact, last year, Cleveland gave up an average of just 13.9 points when playing at home, which was comfortably the lowest in the NFL. Dak looked composed and comfortable early, despite the fact he had Myles Garrett lining up across from him. He quickly picked up where he left off last year with CeeDee Lamb, connecting on a dime on the right sideline before getting veteran receiver Brandon Cooks involved as well. Against a 3rd down blitz, Prescott calmly floated the ball into the end zone, where Cooks easily waltzed underneath it, untouched, to secure the first touchdown of the season. It was a lovely pass by Dak, who quickly spotted the blitz and delivered the pass well before Cooks had even exited his break or passed the safety. It was a great way to kick off the new contract celebrations, and things got even better when he picked apart the Browns in the second quarter to set up an Ezekiel Elliott touchdown. Zeke wasn't exactly the most inspiring running back to have to lead the stable entering the 2024 season, but he looked spry in his first game back, and the sight of him celebrating touchdowns is a pleasant blast from the past for Cowboys fans. Prescott was a tidy 12 of 17 for 140 yards and a touchdown by this point late in the second quarter, and whilst it wasn't as smooth sailing from there on out, the Cowboys were never truly in danger. The reality is that Cleveland's offense looked entirely toothless, and the man responsible is making Dak's shiny new contract look like a bargain. That man is Deshaun Watson. And, to be frank, he was awful. $230 million guaranteed on Watson's contract look a hell of a lot more cumbersome than the cheekily similar $231 million assigned to Dak Prescott. And after that performance in Week 1, there will be a stark difference between the enthusiasm of the two fan bases rooting for either quarterback. I'm sure that there are some concerned Cowboy fans out there who are worried about giving $60 million a year to a guy with such high-profile playoff issues. The Cowboys have been a good regular season team for years, but it is the playoffs that have plagued them, going back to the early 2000s. They are fresh off 3 consecutive 12-5 seasons, which means regular season success is no longer going to quench the thirst of a fan base that are desperate for a lengthier dose of January football. That is what makes the Dak Prescott situation so fascinating. Is he worthy of being one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL based on his regular season success? Yes. Is he worthy of being one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL based on his postseason success? No. So where does that leave us? Well, what's more likely? That the Dallas Cowboys win a Super Bowl in 2025 with a different quarterback leading this roster via the draft or trade? Or Dak Prescott gets this team back to the playoffs again and finally gets the job done? Surely it's the latter. With Lamb now inked to a new deal as well, it will be hard to rule Dallas out of any game during their tenure together. They are truly such a dynamic duo that a hot spell from them could prove to be the downfall of any team in the NFL. Also, as things stand, the Cowboys have one of the best defenses in the NFL, with Mike Zimmer's first game in charge going about as well as anyone could have hoped. If they can find a way to keep Micah Parsons and some of his supporting cast, then the Cowboys will remain a legitimate threat on both sides of the ball. The Super Bowl window is absolutely still open for them because of this new contract, and it is hard to see it closing anytime soon. Remember, this has been one of the best drafting teams in the NFL over recent years. Since 2020, they have found Pro Bowl talents in the form of CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs, Micah Parsons, Deron Bland, Jake Ferguson, and Tyler Smith, with plenty of other useful contributors still littering the roster as well. Oh, and they managed to find Dak Prescott in the 4th round of the 2016 NFL Draft. Remember, if they can continue to hit on picks at that rate, then they can absolutely deal with the hefty contracts demanded by their studs, and ensure that the Super Bowl window remains open for a while. From the 2024 class alone, they are already starting Tyler Guyton and Cooper Beebe along the offensive line, with Marshawn Kneeland and Kalen Carson also getting runtime in the season opener. That's the recipe for success and the blueprint for building a successful roster. Now, Dak just needs to hold up his end of the bargain, which is exactly what he said in his post-game press conference. He says the only thing that he is motivated by is winning the Dallas Cowboys a Super Bowl, which he sees as him holding up his end of the bargain. At this point, Cowboys fans are probably so worn down by repeated playoff failures that only success on the playoff stage will make them believe it is truly possible. But Dak is at least responsible for delivering a stellar wildcard round performance against the reigning champ Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In that game, which would end up being Tom Brady's last in the NFL, Dak threw for 305 yards and 4 touchdowns, earning a near-perfect quarterback rating. Cowboys fans, you can take some hope from that, right? In all seriousness, the playoff struggles are not just a Dak problem. Yes, he deserves a big part of the blame, but it is also not his fault that the Packers were allowed to rack up 48 points. This team has had embedded playoff issues for the last 2 decades now, and there is a lot that they need to figure out, from the quarterback to the coach to the rest of the roster. At the very least, they know that they have a quarterback who can play at near MVP level, lining up under center. He's a well-respected leader of the locker room and a seriously talented quarterback. And what quarterbacks don't have flaws? There aren't many in the NFL at the moment with bulletproof resumes. Prior to the Dak signing, every single member of the top 5 had question marks. Joe Burrow has suffered season-ending injuries in 2 of his 4 years in the NFL, although I don't think there are many who doubt whether he's worth it. Jordan Love had completed just 1 season as a starter before earning his deal, and 1 half of that was questionable at best. Trevor Lawrence remains relatively unproven and underwhelming given the hype surrounding him as a draft prospect, and Tua Tagovailoa doesn't exactly have a reputation for postseason success. Let's take a trip even further down the list. Lamar Jackson is a 2-time MVP and certainly worthy of his deal, yet he has a very underwhelming 2-4 record in the postseason. Justin Herbert sits just outside the top 5, but has yet to prove that he has that reliable, late-game killer instinct. Admittedly, he hasn't had the opportunity to show it off in many big games, but he also remains relatively unproven on the big stage. I understand that a lot of the concerns about Dak Prescott have been proven, rather than merely being theoretical, but is it really a smart decision to swap a quarterback who is second in MVP voting and has surpassed 4,400 yards in 3 of the last 4 seasons for the complete unknown? I'm not so sure. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thank you to BetUS for sponsoring this video. Once again, if you'd like to sign up for BetUS, use the promo code YouTube150.